Did you know that organizations with strong succession planning are 2.5 times more likely to outperform their competitors? That is a significant difference that we cannot afford to overlook. If you are an organizational leader, I want to ask you a question. What are you doing to create strong, effective, and impactful successors throughout your organization for your critical roles, those key roles that you absolutely need to have someone in the seat for your organization to be successful. Now, check this out. I've worked for some organizations. What I found is that some of the strongest organizations, have successors. They understand the strength of having someone internal to the organization who is able to step into that role versus hiring someone from external, from outside of the organization. Why? Because you want to have that person to be able to hit the ground running. They need to know and understand how your organization works. There are some organizations and companies that are, a little bit complex. I'll never forget one of the best companies that I worked at. One of the things they said to me when I first joined that organization was to expect it to take 1 to 2 years for me to kind of, start to feel like I really was excelling in that role. And that's a long time, right? For an outsider coming in to be able to step into that position and be effective and impactful. And they were absolutely right. While I made tremendous progress and had some pretty significant accomplishments, right when I got in the organization, reality was is that it really did take me a long time to understand, what do the actual titles mean? What role does this person do? And what does it really mean that's different from another organization? It took me a while to understand how they get things done. Some organizations, they are fast moving. We get it done. And then there are other organizations that's not necessarily the case, and so you really need someone who is familiar with the culture and can really fit in, because it's one thing to be successful as a leader and to have leadership potential. And perhaps you've worked at organizations and you've been extremely successful in that particular organization, right? You know how to get things done. You're a strong leader. But then when you come over here to this organization, we do things a little bit differently over here. And that style is not going to work. So that's why one of the reasons why it is absolutely essential that you actually have a pipeline of successors for your organization. It's really essential, again, for long-term success, especially in today's dynamic business landscape where, things are changing rapidly. Expectations for people, for companies, and even leaders differ greatly, significantly than they did just a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, I like to say. And so I want you to think about, what are you doing? You hear a lot of conversations right now around the topic of reskilling talent. And absolutely, yes, you need to reskill talent, but you also need to think through, when we have this role, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're a manufacturing firm and you have this massive equipment, and you're in a remote location, but you have customers who are still depending upon this particular equipment, but you only have one person who knows how to do that. What are you going to do if something happens to that talent? Do you ever stop and ask yourself that? That's a key role, because perhaps you have a lot of clients that are depending upon this particular machine, and you never really think about it because perhaps the person isn't in a leadership role, but it's a key role for your organization. So what are you doing to have a pipeline of talent that's ready to step into that role and be successful should that person exit the organization? I want to ask you, for your leadership roles, what are you doing? Do you have someone who is ready now, ready in 3, ready in 5? What are you doing to actually get them ready? And so what I'm charging you right now to do is to think through, what is your succession planning process? That is one of the greatest things that you can actually do, by the way. And we're not talking about that today, but to really retain your high performers, those individuals who want a leadership role and they are meeting and exceeding your expectations and really doing it quite regularly. Maybe you stop and ask yourself, would they be a good fit for this role that maybe they're already in that function, or perhaps it's another function we need to be in. I heard a statement and I thought it was really interesting. Someone said, they're punching above their weight class. And so what does that really mean? Does it mean that the person is delivering over and beyond what you would expect in that particular role? Or does it mean that they're in the wrong role? Perhaps they're in the wrong role and we need to, move them to the right position for your organization. So I want to ask you that. But I want to talk to you just for a couple of minutes about unlocking the power of succession planning for your organization. See, I want to give you a simple 3-step roadmap that you can actually use to develop dynamic and impactful leaders throughout your organization. And I say throughout your organization because I want you to really begin to think through your organization. Who's there? What are they good at? What have they done? What do they want to do? What do you actually need? And when you think about what do you actually need, where are we now? Where are we going? What are our opportunities? Think about that. So again, I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to keep saying it because I truly believe it, that succession planning is the cornerstone of sustainable organizations. I have a tool for you that I think will be extremely impactful for you. And all you need to do is to send me a message. Just say succession planning. That's all you need to say. And I'm going to be sure to get this tool. It's actually a checklist that you can actually use to really think through how do we develop our successors. And if you're a leader, a senior leader, I invite you to talk through this with your HR business partner. I invite you to talk through this with your manager and with your team and tell them, what you're going to be doing to develop them. See, here's the thing. I was having an interesting conversation just last night with someone, and he's a pretty successful guy. And we were just kind of talking about his role, and he was kind of frantic, and he was apologizing for being late for meeting me. And I said, oh, that's okay. We were able to get it taken care of. And so the group went on, without you, we made it work, right? We improvised, but your presence was absolutely needed here. And so I'm glad that you were able to come. And so he began to talk to me about this new role that he's in. And it really got me to thinking through how I've helped a number of organizations create succession planning processes and frameworks, and how I've helped them to develop their leaders throughout the organization, ensuring that they have strong, effective leaders. And, that's, of course, if you know me, that's been my jam, right? Because I've worked with a lot of, I'm going to call them interesting characters. But I want to really partner with those organizations who want to make a difference in the world. And that's why I come on here and we're talking about this. And so we're talking about succession planning again. And so one of the things that you can actually do is think through what do we need? We've already talked about that, right? So once you've established that, I want you to think through the brilliance, the genius that lies within your organization. See, you got some brilliant people already around you right now. And if you don't, I want to ask you, why not? You have some geniuses who are around you right now. And if you don't, I want to ask you, why not? But I want you to identify the brilliance and the genius within your organization. See, there's hidden potential within your organization, whether you realize it or not. Sometimes we need to look a little bit deeper, a little bit closer. Perhaps it's requiring us to have a conversation with someone that we've not had a conversation with before. Perhaps it's requiring us to, really say, who's on your team that is absolutely brilliant and essential that I can help mentor, that I can have a conversation with. It's keeping your eyes open throughout your organization to see who would be a great fit, who has the potential to step into the role, who has the desire to step into the role. And those two are critical when we're looking for the brilliance and the genius within the organization. Because what I found is that sometimes we have individuals who are sharp, and we think that a way to reward them is to promote them, right? But perhaps they don't really want the position. And so you may find yourself developing someone who does not want to be developed for the role that you're developing them for. Here's the other thing I want to say. And I've seen this a lot when I've had conversations with leaders, is that someone says, no, we can't do this right now. Perhaps, no, I can't relocate to another country right now. And so we just disbar them, and we just think, we're just going to move them off the list. They're not interested in promoting or being or growing. And that's not necessarily the case. Perhaps their current lifestyle does not reflect that that's something that they can readily do right now. Maybe they have children in school and they're in their last year, or perhaps, they're going through something in their family or health, and it requires them to really kind of dig deep and focus on that versus saying that, they're not interested. So I want you to really think through that. I want you to seek out individuals who exhibit the traits like unwavering passion. They're passionate about what they do. I want you to seek out individuals who will challenge you, the way you think and the way you see things, your perspective. I want you to seek out individuals who are adaptable and flexible. Now, going back to what I just said, that does not mean, again, that if the person isn't really willing to relocate or take on another role right now, that they're not adaptable. You need to have a conversation and ask those deeper questions. I want to ask you, does the person have a relentless appetite for growth? They're already growing and stretching and developing and continuously improving and looking to make the organization better. See, those are some of the characteristics that we need to look at versus the people who we get caught up in because they speak well, they're charismatic, and because of their charisma, we automatically think that they should be a leader or they deserve a promotion. And that's not necessarily the case. So I want you to think through that. And I want you to encourage self-reflection. And I want you to think about who can mentor them to develop and cultivate their skill set, who can ignite their path to greatness, because there's greatness that lies inside of these individuals. But sometimes we need to figure out how to take them from good to great. How do we say, you know what, there's a 1 degree difference between hot water and steam. And maybe right now they're hot water, but what can you actually do to make it steam? Think about that as you're identifying these individuals who will step and lead your organization forward, who will help to ensure that your organization is sustainable. That's the first step. Second step, I want you to tailor your growth initiatives. So how are we going to grow them? How are we going to move them from where they are currently to where we want them to be? How do you do that? Well, the question is up to you. There are a number of ways that you can actually do that. And one way that I'm a proponent of is having a customized development program. And with your customized development program, absolutely, you're going to have a mentor. Absolutely, you're going to think about the opportunities that they need. What is it that they need in terms of education? Do they have the education to be able to be successful in this role? Have they worked with the right functions and the right leaders? Have they been in the right meetings? Are they looking at the right reports and they understand how to forecast? Do they understand long-term growth? Do they understand where our opportunities are? Are they able to look at the data and be able to make an assessment, an evaluation, a recommendation of what has happened, what needs to happen, and what we can actually do to make that happen? What will be our barriers, our obstacles? What is it that makes us strong? What is it that makes us, weak to our competitor? I want you to think about that. And one of the things that you need to think about as you are creating this development plan for this individual, what are the specific skill gaps that they need to move towards excellence? And I want you to immerse them in the learning. Now, there are a number of different ways that you can actually do that, including stretch assignments. Perhaps you're just sending them information or sending them meetings, but you're having the conversation with them. And that's most important. You're continuously checking in with them, continuously checking in with their mentor and ensuring that they're tracking towards success. So often we identify these individuals and we give them some development opportunities. Perhaps we send them to a trainer and we get them a coach. We give them some stretch assignments, but we don't have the conversations. Because see, once they are, in this world, I want you to go back and ask them, does this appeal to you? Is this something you're interested in still? And continuously having that conversation and giving them the freedom to say yes and the freedom to say no can make all the difference. See, as I was sitting with the individual yesterday and we were having this conversation, one of the things that, we were talking about was his mentor and his job and how he's in this role now. One of the things that he said was, they gave me the ability to say, I don't know or no. And so are you doing that for the people on your team? I want you to create that fertile ground of collaboration and knowledge exchange. That's one of the most powerful things that you can actually do in your organization. Knowledge exchange. I love it. I love it because I love to grow. I love to stretch, and I like being around people who challenge my ideas in a healthy way. I love being around people who stretch me, people who I can, share my ideas without them being intimidated by them because maybe perhaps they think they're too big, instead of asking, how can we actually get there? people who can or have an appreciation for the different types of organizations that I've supported, that I've been a leader in, or perhaps I've coached a leader in that particular organization. And so I have insight that I can bring. And so you want to be able to connect those, create a knowledge exchange at your organization where you can connect the learnings, right? It's something where you can take your information, I can take my information, we connect it and link it together. And once we link it together, we're stronger and more powerful together. And so I want you to think about that. That's where the wisdom lies. That's how you pass the torch of wisdom, and you give them the time and the opportunity to forge these relationships, right? Where you can ask questions in a safe place. So you don't want your successors to be afraid of asking questions because they will be attacked. Yes, they will be challenged. That's part of it. But attacking is something totally different. And so part of your stretching them and growing them and developing them is showing them their areas of opportunity, perhaps in their communication or their presentation. Perhaps you're not the answer for them, but you're connecting with people, connecting them with the right people who can give them different pieces of the puzzle to be able to formulate their own opinion, to formulate their own hypothesis, and be able to create something bigger and stronger. See, once you're able to do that, you're able to witness the seamless transfer of insights, enabling your successors to be confident and self-assured leaders who understand what they're here to do and the impact they can make on the organization and the customers and the clients and the community. The impact they can actually make on the employees who they work with every day. And they understand how their leadership, not only does it impact those employees, but it impacts those employees' families. See, when you're under a lot of stress and you throw somebody into the role, some leaders think that it's good, right? Because you have fight or flight. But the other thing that happens is that it also wreaks havoc on their systems and their bodies and their families. And so I want you to think through that. That's why I want you to think through, what does it really look like for us to unlock the power of succession planning? How do we create and build a sustainable future with having those strong, effective, impactful leaders, those dynamic leaders throughout your organization? Now, again, remember, I have a tool for you. And if you want this tool that will help you to really look at your own processes and see, how can we actually do better? How can we do this better? How can we be more effective at succession planning? All you got to do is just message me and say succession planning, and I'll get that tool right over to you. Why do I ask you to message me? Because I only want those individuals who are truly interested in it, not the ones who just click the link and they're just kind of downloading resources, whatever, and you never actually use them. I like to work with the doers, the action-oriented people who are looking to make significant change throughout their organizations. And if that's you, I encourage you to message me and I'll get that tool right over to you. Blessings. I'll see you guys back here next week. Now, here's the thing: the next week, starting next week, we will not be here on Fridays. This has actually been a test. And so we've been testing out material, testing out how we actually do this, getting back into the groove of going live. It's been a moment since we've done that. One of the things that I used to love back in the day when lives first came out was doing that on a daily basis. And so it really takes a moment to kind of get back into the groove, right, and be able to show up consistently. So that's what this has been all about. So look for us to be back on a different day. We're looking at either Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. We're going to figure it out this week, but absolutely you will actually know about it. So I will see you guys back here next week, and we're going to continue to talk about sustainability. It's something that has been really important to me, and I would love to share with you more about how you can actually build a sustainable organization. Blessings, and I'll see you guys back here next week.